we change ourselves. Die from the sicknesses if we don't seek the health. All eyes be my witness when I speak was felt. Full house on my hands, the cards I was dealt. 3 Ks, 2 A's in America.
I watched, I can't think of the guy's name, but he was on Ayanna Van Zant Fix My Life.
Okay.
Him and his wife on there, and they've been married for a while. He was I think he was an NFL player. But he talked about body count, and dude had like 300 and something, you know what I'm saying, plus on his belt. And the majority of these women were inside of his relationship. I want to speak to that because I know that as you know, as young men, number one, we're encouraged from, you know, our uncles, you know, boy, you got a girlfriend, you know, you had sex yet? You know what I'm saying? You don't know what you're doing, you know, and they you know, it's just that bravado and that masculinity kind of like 3.0 that gets pushed on us at an early age. Why does it feel like we need to have, you know, the body count to kind of make us feel like we, you know, we're the man?
I'll start. So I think it starts with what our kids are exposed to. You know, when it comes to what they listen to on the radio, what they watch on TV, you know, sex is everywhere.
Yeah.
And so if that's all you're being fed all the time, you really don't know anything different, right? And then you may be one of those that goes to church with your parents, but as a kid, sometimes you compartmentalize. Like when I'm at church, I'm at church.
Right.
You know, I get my praise on, whatever. But when I'm not in church, you know, I do my thing pretty much. And so until we're able to paint a different picture to the youth of what it means to be a strong man, because right now the picture is, you know, having sex with multiple women, doing drugs.
That's cool.
Yeah, that's cool. But once that picture is painted differently, then I feel like we'll start to see a shift. But I think that's where it's going to start.
So let me ask this: how does that, in the long run, what are some of the things that you see that can, you know, trickle over into your future? Like, how does that affect your future?
So first, okay, I don't know percentage, but I'm pretty sure the percentage is high as far as the number of black men who have kids outside of wedlock. And then what that ends up doing is you have a generation of kids who are fatherless or whose father is absent, you know, not around as much. The reason being is because they did things out of order.
Yeah.
You know, when you have sex outside of marriage, I mean, you can still get divorced,
Yeah.
but I'm sure the statistics are higher for those who had sex outside of marriage and, you know, chose not to be involved versus those who were married, had a kid, and then stepped away.
Yeah.
In those situations, I'm sure I'm just speaking off of what I assume, but the statistics are probably higher that those fathers were still active because, you know,
Yeah.
the mother and father, they had the child together, they tried to make it work, for that reason didn't. But in the other situation where you might have sex with a girl one time, she gets pregnant, you don't want nothing to do with her. So the involvement is not going to be there. And then you have a generation of kids who grow up again fatherless, you know, they don't have the balance of a mother and father to help raise them.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's how I see it in the future.
So I think that's from the kid's standpoint, right? So I think there's systemic problems. And what Terry mentioned is that if uncles, old community, I see you like that girl, what's going on with that girl? And I think we're validating our youth based on interactions with opposite sex. We're totally negating, validating them on, tell me more about your science project.
Mm.
Show me that model you built.
Mm.
We're not encouraging them to be intellectuals. We're encouraging them to be socially identified as X. If we pay more attention to them and their interests outside of sex and sports, then they'll strive to seek that same attention and validation outside of sex and sports. So I think if we, you know, the barbershop, for example, I grew up in a barbershop that there was an older lady that ran the barbershop. All younger people went there. And in that barbershop, you had the same conversations. There are also conversations about books, about documentaries, you know. On a barbershop on the south side of Chicago, natives of the south side of Chicago. He stopped every day at 3 o'clock and watched Jeopardy, because that's what Miss Clay did. And you would have people from all walks of life engaging in that intellectual activity, gaining and getting acknowledgement for knowing some random fact that no one else knows. Miss Clay has been out of the shop for years. I go there when I visit home. That shop shuts down. There's no outside conversation. They're still watching Jeopardy. Because she planted a seed that said it's important to have knowledge.
Right.
She planted a seed that said there's a culture, at least in this place, I'm going to acknowledge the intellect. I'm going to acknowledge that and encourage that thirst for information and knowledge. That's just what we need to do more as a community, as a whole.
I agree with you on that, because I see that so frequently. The need to have a social status is extended far beyond the need to be intelligent or to seek knowledge. So oftentimes they seek a social status or premise of a social status to justify who they are. And then out of that justification, that's where you see the drug dealing and all that sort of stuff going on. So they can keep that social status up and then don't have the intellectual aptitude at all to move or even encouraged in that area to go to college or to do this or to do that. So the breakdown of the family, and not only the breakdown of the family, but also they're just not even being encouraged within the community to seek that. Because most of the time, the person that's going to get most of the glam and the fame is going to be the athlete over the intellectual boy that decided to go and be a doctor or an attorney or to be a professor at some level. So it's almost like the intelligence ranked far below the superior athlete, because the superior athlete is going to get love all the time. The guy that just opened a major corporation down the street, nobody's going to really know who he is. They're not going to give him that same love.
Unless he's riding around in the Lambo and the flashy suit.
Right. Interesting story with me. I had gone to a Hawks basketball game many years ago. I'm talking about, this was like Dominique Wilkins had just like retired just a couple of years. I mean, it's been so long that the Omni was still there. You know what I mean? It wasn't Phillips Arena. The Omni was still there. Jordan was in the league. Matter of fact, I went to see Jordan play. And I was walking, had a friend with me, and we're walking together. And on comes a guy that owns the team. So she looked, and she goes, she was like, why are you talking to that man? I was like, I know him. He's a nice guy. She was like, why he sort of dressed weird? Like, I said, really? I said, do you know that man on the very team that we're going to see? She was like, why his shoes look like that? He got a corduroy jacket on. I was like, because he doesn't wear his money.
Right.
He doesn't wear his money like most people. I said, so you didn't know who he was, but you assumed he was a bum, but we wanted to see the very basketball team go. So I'm like, how are you gonna equate that to that? But that social status level, it seems to take glorification over being intelligent and knowing.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate.
Let me spin this to something else now.
Go right ahead.
If you don't mind.
No, go right ahead, man.
So, you're saying our community only really appreciates social status, making it in a certain arena, and doesn't really validate true accomplishment.
Not as much as it should.
Right? So then when somebody who is ascendant in areas outside of the public spectrum, the doctors, the lawyers, then go to be in an environment that validates them, they're deemed a sellout. Right? But they're a sellout from the same people that really don't value what they've done and don't hold them in the regard that someone else does. So essentially, they're still looking for validation. They just can't get it from their own community. What are your thoughts on that?
You and Jamil, y'all jump in on that.
Yeah, that right there, man. Actually, that touches on why I came up with a business called Fly Nerds and why this shop is called Fly Nerds Chop Shop. Where I wanted to brand that it was cool to be smart, because I grew up, I'm from New York, and even in New York and in Florida, when I moved to Florida when I was younger too, because of the way I talk and the fact that I like to learn, I was considered nerdy or trying to be white.
Yeah.
Or what have you. And again, it just kind of puts on what y'all say, that our community didn't value education. And really, it was about being cool, you know, and about having swag. This, that, and the third, more than, you know, knowing who you are. Like, while you guys are talking, I'm thinking about my son, the situation I have with my son and my daughter, how I've always tried to teach them to know yourself, be confident in who you are, know what you like. But me and your mom, you know, ask me whatever you want to ask me. As long as you say it with love and respect. But it's like I feel like I've given my kids the keys, but they don't even want it. Because it's more like, you know, well, my mom says this, or my friends this. It's like, but what do you want though?
Yeah.
Trying to get them to brand. It's like your own, whatever, your own self-worth, or
It's deep.
your own thoughts of you and what you want is not even important. That's how we kind of grew up. It's just, no, we got to do this, or we got to do it that way. Like, if you got something in you that's different than what the norm is, you kind of almost got to suppress it.
Yeah.
In a sense, so.
That's real, man. Because I deal with that too from, and I'm going to pass it over to you, Hugh. But I deal with that. I dealt with that with my children. And I noticed that sometimes if we're not careful without having the right balance, we can, you know, allow them to just drift away into that environment of just being cool and being accepted, and not really putting in the work, like you said, to identify with who you are and to find that path, because it may not look like everybody else's. I had one of my nephews call me last night or night before last, and he's playing. He's on a scholarship and he plays football, but football, he said, is no longer his passion. You know, it got him in the door. It got him the full ride to school. But he said he's looking at his life, and he said he no longer sees NFL in the bigger picture. And I told him, I said, well, bro, that's really where it's at. I said, because now you're coming to terms with who you are. Yep. I said, because for a long time you've been chasing NFL. That was the end goal, and that was going to, you know, that was going to be the identifier that you know gave you relevance. But no, now you're on the path. Whatever it is that, you know, your passion is, or the path that you feel like God has placed you on as far as what you need to get your degree in and follow that. I said, that's where you're at now. You're at a crossroad. Because you can say, if I do go to the NFL, I have a backup plan. And it's not that that's just the end goal and that's all of it. And so I do believe that, and for him, he did say, he said, you know, he said, I feel like I've lost some years off my life. I said, no, you haven't. I said, because sometimes you got to ride in a car to get to where you're going so that you can make it to the crossroad. And I said, it was just a vehicle to get you to where you are. So I believe that, you know, that sometimes we do have to follow that path to get to where we're going, and then we make the decision to, you know, to follow our heart, to follow our dreams, our passions, or like say even to follow the knowledge, you know, instead of just the cool and acceptance part. But Hugh, I'm just gonna pass it off to you, man, and you know, just whatever your thoughts are, man, on that.
Yeah, I think you know, a lot of it. Sometimes I, you know, just I study other cultures. You know, I kind of see like how do they operate? How do they have such a, you know, a focus? There's a pathway for, you know, for their kids to follow. You know, and you know, just for instance, I look at, you know, places where the resources is not even, you know, third world countries, India, Africa. You know, it's a lot. It's cultural. You know, I see a lot of it is kind of embedded. You know, being a doctor. You know, and being, you know, the best, you know, career you could be. You know, once that's instilled and that's constantly talked about. I mean, every day. You know, I think it's constantly drilled, and they live, sleep, breathe, eat it. You know, I think. That's a way that, you know, we can mirror that. We can mirror how Asians do, you know, how they, you know, it's just because you know, when it's all said and done, peer pressure is gonna be. I mean, you can instill, you know, as much as you can in children, but the peer pressure is gonna be, you know, that's gonna impact it a lot. So I think, you know, a lot of times if it's across the board, just you know, just shifting that culture, you know, just. you know, hey, you know, this is what's gonna be. This is success. You know, this is what you need to strive for. Anything less, you know, it's just unacceptable. You know, I know always, they got that one saying, anything above average is unacceptable. You know, so I think, you know, with our country, our culture, you know, specifically, I just think it's just not across the board. You know, it's just not, you know, something that we all sleep. You know, making sure that, you know, the kids, you know, sleep, breathe, and eat. Hey, everything is just, you know, you're gonna be your best, the best you can be, and anything less, I mean, you're looked upon as very low. You know, it's kind of like, and I know it's kind of like status sometimes. You know, you have this and you have this down here, but end of the day, you know, it works for those cultures. You know, I really look at, you know, the Indians, the Africans, you know.
Being cool is not priority.
Yeah, exactly. It's all about books. It's all about, you know, being smart is what cool. Makes you, exactly, cool. You know, hey, I know more than you. I could share this with you. I know some you don't. You know, so I think that's something we're missing. You know, as a culture.
One thing I'd like to speak to that as it relates to that is similar to yourself. I study other cultures as well. And the discipline and the structure that they have to make that possible.
What is that? Like you said, does that come from though the parental guidance? Like it's not.
Does.
Yeah,
So
it's not nothing that they have to figure out.
It has to come from home.
Yeah.
So your parents has to be just as structured and disciplined as well in order to feed that into you. Yeah. I think it's good.
Good point.
And now what it makes me think about too is that a lot of these other coaches, what I see is that they keep the excellence bar high, and I think that's kind of what we drop, or we kind of play with that. You know, but I think we got to keep the excellent bar high, and I think that will keep us competitive out here, and I think it help our family just be more healthy. Our relations with one another be a lot more healthier with ourselves and really. When we keep that excellence bar high, we gotta have this inner discipline. We gotta have integrity. Like integrity's been a big piece.
Yeah,
that's what's been coming up and I see that the ball has been dropped. Like when I look at my family, like from my elders, like it's kind of hard to have respect for people that ain't got respect for themselves. Like when I say I come from, you know, a lot of alcohol, people that are on drugs or whatever. How you gonna respect yourself when you see them not really respecting themselves? You know, and when they don't know how to, like, I can say like some of my family, I got a chance to get away, leave New York and Florida, do some college, but I think some of my family look at me different. And like that, I did a whole lot, and I don't think I did much. But then they won't tell me some things. You know what I'm saying? That I need to hear at times, like I've arrived or something, man. Yeah. But it's like, nah, because you already doing it. Like, nah, I'm trying to do it. But again, it's this funny excellence bar. I think that we don't even know it, or it's just low, or it's.
So, I think we're too protective of a community, and I'm not talking about people in this room.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the audience for this room.
Okay.
See, our community is one that, because of the levels or the heights that elders have made it, parents have made it, we put constraints on ambitions for our kids. Yeah. Not us.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But
I got you.
In general.
Yeah.
So if you grew up in the same house and grandma grew up in, mama grew up in, and mama tells you, don't worry about becoming a career person and having your own. This is the family house and you'll always have a place here. Now, she said that out of love. But what you heard at the young age is that you're always going to live here, so don't set your sights too high.
Shattered possibilities almost.
Okay. So what Hugh said is they encourage their children to be the best they can be. And I'll refute that and say other cultures encourage their children to be the best without limits. Right? We encourage our kids to be the best they can be, but then we tell them what they can be.
Right.
The moment that we stop putting constraints on their imagination,
that's it.
Their ambition,
that's it.
They'll go further and further because they've never been told they can't get there.
I wanna just throw it over to Drew for a second, because you pretty much You know what I'm saying? You're connected to a younger audience more than we are. What does that look like in your life from past experiences, or you know, or just reflections? You know, like periods of time where, you know, because you know, being raised in, you know, a two-parent home, you know, you had a good structured foundation, but that doesn't mean it was absent from, you know, times when you either wanted to or maybe even been pulled off the path, but you know, you came back. Like,
Yeah.
what does that look like to you?
So I have a bit of a testimony, really, because when I went to college, or I'll say this, in high school I was an athlete. I played basketball. My senior year, my junior senior year, the head coach changed, and like he just didn't use the talent on the team the way that it was very political. Let's just say that. You know, I grew up in the suburbs. You know, and most of the people who contributed to the tip-off club or the, you know, to the school, they were you know, our counterparts.
Right.
So their sons got to play, and unfortunately, some of the other kids who were of our color, more talented, sat on the bench. And so my senior year, I really got frustrated, and I just quit the team. As a result, I ended up dabbling into marijuana, which was out of character for me. But I think it was just, I don't know, I was in a low moment. Like, it kind of killed my pride. Like, me personally, like, I thought I was good at the sport. You know, AAU ball, I was a starter, I did well. But then when it came for the high school ball, you know, when it really mattered, I didn't get to play. And it kind of, you know, did something to my pride and my self-esteem. So did that, and then when I went off to college, a buddy of mine introduced me to like actually like selling marijuana, and it didn't seem like anything big to me. I was like, you know, just kids on campus, you know, everybody smoke, you know, they want somebody, they gotta get it from somewhere, so I might as well, you know, capitalize on that. So I did it for a little while, again, out of character. If my parents would have knew what I was doing, they would have been so disappointed because of the upbringing that I had. But I remember I came home after my freshman year of college, and I was still doing it. And I had something in my drawer, like stashed away. My mom says to this day that my younger brother found it, but I think she was doing some snooping. But I probably was just acting out of character. She was like, you know, what's going on? So anyway, they ended up finding, you know, some stuff, and I got into some serious trouble. They made me sit out of school that next semester so they can kind of keep an eye on me. And that was kind of like torture to me, because I'm like, all my friends are back at school, you know, I'm home. And as a matter of fact, I was supposed to pledge my fraternity that year too, but since my parents had me stay home, I missed out on that and everything. So it was just kind of like a check for me. But even when I went back to school, I kind of wasn't selling it, but was still, you know, actively doing it, participating. And as a result, it was impacting my grades. And so my parents asked me to, the middle of my junior year, they asked me to come back home. My mom was like, she felt like the Lord was telling her that it was time for me to come back home. I was getting off the path. And, you know, she would really like for me to come home so that they can get me back where I need to be going. And I remember when she first told me, I was very much against it. Like, I'm a college student, I have my own life going on, you know. And, but I don't know, I guess something just told me to come back home. And I mean, it's a long story, but as a result, you know, I got back into the church, and I ended up being like the president of the young adult ministry at my church. Started getting back on the right path. You know, I got an internship at a credit union. I was majoring in finance, and it worked out that I got an internship through one of the guys that went to church with me. He was a CEO of a credit union. And then from there, I mean, it was just like things just started moving in the right direction for me from there. So it's almost like, you know, I had a choice to make. I could have continued to go down the path, you know, down at Valdosta, dabbling into whatever I was into, not really focused, or come back home and live with my parents. But, you know, it proved to be the best option, you know, in the long run. So I can speak to that from personal experience. You know, sometimes when we go off to college, or I would say most times when we go off to college, we just want to enjoy life. And we don't really, as college students, we don't understand the severity of the choices that we make in college and what type of impact that can have on you and your future. You know what I mean? Like, something as simple as a DUI can really cost you, you know, your career. You know what I'm saying? Or, I mean, you know, you might get kicked out of school. I mean, there's so many things that can happen. But when you're young like that, you just like, You live for the here and now. You know what I'm saying? I got time. And what mom and dad talking about or principal talking about, I'm not really trying to hear all that. I'm just trying to have a good time. And then again, it's just every consequence has a or every choice you make has a consequence.
That's right. That's right. Well, man, I appreciate you speaking on that, because I think that's real information for a lot of our youth, because all of us were kind of speaking on it, saying that we can see that being cool is the path that they're taking, and they're thinking that they have time, that I can get it right on the back end, or I can come back around and fix it. When in reality, it has to be done here, on the ground. It's like a space shuttle. You got to put the coordinates on the ground, because once it take off and it breaks the barrier, you can't change its route of travel. So I think that it was awesome that your parents, saw something. Right. You know what I'm saying, and they were concerned enough to say that even though you were a young adult and you were becoming a man, they still had to have hands-on interaction.
Right.
And I think that that's one of the things that our culture, speak from a cultural standpoint, that Hugh even mentioned and Cody even mentioned, that we don't, we sometimes as a culture, we don't keep our hands on long enough. Even with the same space shuttle analogy, the rocket, the fuel tanks stay on until it breaks the barrier, and then they fall off. And so I think sometimes, we just think that just because they've taken off, that they've got it. Yeah. And I think we have to stay on long enough until they break the barrier, right. And then we can, fall off, because no longer it's needed to fuel them. They, because they're in an atmosphere now where they can float.
3 K's, 2 A's in America. I'm just a black space born out the nebula. And everything I do will say today that's worthwhile. Will for sure inspire action in your first child. I begin my first now. Sometimes I speak and I feel like it ain't my words. Like I'm just a vessel channeling inside this universe. I feel my ancestors and rested inside of me.